I had to stop real quick and come back with a higher resolution. All right, all right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night public class. Hey, Ronnie Probert, how you doing tonight, bud? We'll see other people pop in tonight as we get going. I threw out the links a little too late this evening, but it is what it is. We'll get it done how we can. Hello, everyone. All right, let's make sure that everyone can hear me. Let me open up my audio controls. Hey, Brooks, how you doing? Hey, John Thompson, how you doing? Ronnie Probert, how's everybody doing tonight? All right, all right. Hey, Jim, thanks for popping in. Let's see if I can. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Sorry, everybody. Just want to make sure that my audio is working proper. Not too loud, not too soft. Hey, everybody. So tonight we're going to lay out a couple of different panel designs that could be used as a decorative wall art piece, multiples, right, to create a nice little wall art array, if you will. Or they could actually be used for door panels for cabinets, you know, front of the door panels and things like that. They could really be done up a lot of different ways. I'm going to show you just a couple, and then you can just let your imagination run wild from there. And so everything I'm doing tonight can be done in Desktop Pro or Aspire. Doesn't require any 3D modeling or anything like that. We're going to be utilizing the texturing toolpath. We're going to work with V-carving and working with flourish vectors, you know, graphics and things like that. We will be you know, general layout, some node editing and things like that. So let's jump right on into it. It's the night's not getting any younger, and neither am I. So let's jump on over to Vectric Aspire, and we'll throw me down there. Okay. Let me see here. Where's Waldo? All right. Trying to decide where I want to be. For right now, I'll be on the right side. So it's almost like one of those ping pong games. All right. We are going to set this up as on our panel. We're going to set it up with a job size of 18 inches wide, 30 inches tall. And then, of course, you would customize it to whatever you want it to be. But 18 by 30 is what we're looking at here. And I'll be referencing off the material surface. I'm not doing any, kind of cutout or anything like that. And we can start anywhere you want. The center, bottom left corner, it's totally your choice. I'm going to start off on the bottom left corner, and then I'm going to click OK, and that's going to be the job setup for me. All righty. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of create a bit of a divide in this panel. One side of this panel is going to have, you know, some type of decorative decor. We'll put a nice little texture in the background. It'll be recessed and raised. And then the right side of the panel will just be kind of like an element of, you know, just some nice geometric shape and everything. And then in our second panel and all, we'll mix it up a little bit and add some other little nuances and all that stuff. So we'll go from there. Awesome. All right. Thanks, JD. Sounds good. Okay. Jetty Vandal, how you doing? All right. All right. So let's get started with this. Now, the first things first, I want a border. And on my border, I'm going to do an, you know, just a very narrow border. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch around. Yeah, we'll do a 1/2 inch around. So in the rectangle tool, I'm going to come in and I need to find the center of my piece, that 9 and 15 inch mark with the anchor of this part. So I'm going to take and type in the letter X, or I could use the letter W for width, but I'll use X. It's just easier. And then I'm just going to subtract 1 inch from that. That's a lie. I'm going to take my X and divide it by 2. And then I'm going to take my Y, or the letter H for height, and I'm going to divide that by 2. Now that's going to give me my center point for the anchor. And I'm going to go with square edges on this one. So nice square edges. We're going to kind of be like, you know, just kind of square and geometrically pleasing. I don't know how you want to say it. Now, when it comes to the size, my panel is 30 by 18. I can do the math in my head. I want to subtract 1 inch from that 18 to make it 17. I want to take 1 inch from that 30 to make it 29. I could do that and just type in the numbers, right? Simple. But I could also do the same thing, kind of like what I did up above. I can take my x-axis and subtract 1 inch from that. And I could take my y-axis and subtract 1 inch from that. And since the software knows how big my material is, that 18 by 30, it will know to subtract the 1 inch from 18 and the 1 inch from 30, right? That kind of thing. So we can do that kind of math in these boxes. These boxes are called calculation edit boxes for anyone that's new to the Vectric software. All right, let's go ahead and hit create. And that's just going to create our nice little trim border, right? Our nice little border. All right, all right, all right. Now, in our layout, give me just a moment. I want to move that to layer 1. Okay. In our layout, we're going to divide this panel up. Now, are we going to divide it up right down the middle? We're going to divide it up where one side's larger than the other? Totally up to you. Whatever's aesthetically pleasing and things like that. Now, do me a quick solid for a second. Give me just a quick moment. Just a quick moment. Okay. I had some things laid out, pre-laid out and all that stuff, and I had to find it. And I needed to move it over onto my big screen so I could see it a little bit better. All right. Let's see. I don't need that measurement. So this was the layout that I had decided on for the divide, right? So the right side is slightly larger than the left side. Let me move that to the center of the board. And that is kind of the way I want to divide this panel. Now, the project today, Kimberly, is wall art and, decorative wall art panel and things like that. Or it could be a door panel for cabinet doors, or it could be an array of art panels on the wall. We're going to make a couple of different ones. We're going to create this to give it just some depth and definition on a few things. So we'll have one side that'll be raised, a decorative decor and a little bit of a texture area, and then another side just to have some geometric shape. So this is what I decided on for my panel layout for the first one, and then I'll change it up after that. But this was the divide. Want the right side, this will be my decorative flourish, my raised panel and everything. And then over here, I'm just going to do some simple shapes. Now, in our layers here, I have some layers that are that I already have a couple of shapes and things on. The first one here is we'll turn on the block layer, and I've got this block. I call it a block, just a square. And what I'm thinking on this is that I'm going to take this square. I'm going to make multiple copies of it down here with a certain spacing in between. Now, on here, I want a gap along the top of the part and on the side of, I want it less than a quarter. I want it more than an eighth. You know, I could go 3/16, but I landed on a number that I thought looked, good and everything for a square this size of 0.198. And it's something that, when you're drawing and you're moving things around, just kind of what looks good. So if I snap this rectangle to my corner here, I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to make a relative move. I want to make a move to the left of 0.198, and I want to make a move down negative 0.198. When I do that, and I click apply, that's going to move this part down and give me that spacing on this left and top side of that part. Okay? Now, from here, I'm going to draw a line. A center line on the center of that part. I'm going to find the center and I'm going to draw a vertical line, but I need to know where to stop down here. How long do I draw my line? Because I'm going to create an equal number of these squares all the way down this left side, and I need it to, it's going to start with the center square at the top of the line. It's going to end with a square on the bottom of the line, right? So I need to know where to fall here. So to do that, I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to mirror a copy, create a mirror copy, and I'm going to flip it about the center of my board, flip it about job center, and I'm going to flip it vertically. And what that's going to do is that's going to put another one down here at the bottom with that same spacing. Now I have two that I can work with, and the with that, I can come and draw a straight line connecting from center to center. Kimberly, I do not know if the 30/18 is the golden ratio, but I love working with the golden ratio. Basically, if we let's take our 30 just to find out. Let's go, I'll just grab any little box that I can add in. We'll say 30 divided by 1.618, 18.5418. So at 18 inches, I'm very close, right? So the I'm not, I'm just off by that half an inch, but still very pleasing to the eye, that 18 by 30, just off the golden ratio by a half inch on its length, right? So pretty close. All right, let's close that tool up. And yes, Brooks, exactly right, 1.618. So if I had my 18, I could have multiplied that by 1.618. If I had my 30, I can divide that by 1.618, and that'll give me the other number, my length or my width, right? You know, that kind of thing. Cool beans. All right, so now that I have my line here, I can go ahead and delete that bottom part there. And I can take my shape, select my line, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy along a vector. And I'm going to do a number of 12 copies. So I'll go ahead and copy that down to create those 12 parts and everything. And that's going to look good to me. Now, the space of the 198.198 here and the space between these two parts are about 0.2 and some change. That's just a little variance from that 198. Not going to make a difference whatsoever in my particular panel here, but if you really want your spacing to be the same 0.198 between each of the parts, do the math. Size the part appropriately for 12 parts to be spaced between that 29 inches, and then, do the math so that you end up with 0.198 between each one. For me, my particular block size that I designed that I like, my center to center point, 12 of those spread out evenly gives me a space of roughly about 0.2 and some change, 0.2012, right? So I am not going to sweat the few thousandths of an inch difference. And I'm going to be very happy with my results. I already know what this panel looks like when it ends. So there you go. All right. Now, with that, I need to create some center lines. That will represent my V-bit cutting. My V-bit's going to go in and it's going to go around these blocks. And it's going to then cut between the blocks. And then it's going to give that illusion of those individual blocks. They'll have a nice chamfer on them and stuff all the way around. But before I do that and everything, I want to go ahead and, excuse me, I want to create my rectangle on the right-hand side. I'm going to draw a rectangle over this that'll represent my vector for my back pocket, or for my pocket, for my texturing and all that stuff. And I already have a flourish that I picked out. In the next panel, we're going to trace an image and create a different flourish on the second panel layout, but on this one I've already got one laid out, and so we'll turn on the flourish here, and let me get this laid out here. Now let's take a close look at this and everything. So this is going to be the flourish that's going to be on the right side, my decorative panel here, and there's a few areas that I need to clean up. I've got a couple of pixels that I need to remove, and I've got a couple of, some trash, your square pixels, those are trash. So I've got a few of those to clean up, and then I've got an overlap to get rid of. Otherwise, I'm going to get an error. Now, this particular flourish here, I want it centered in this rectangle. So I'm just simply going to select that flourish first. Hold down the shift key, select this rectangle last, this right side rectangle, go to the alignment tool and center. Okay, cool beans. All right, now this particular flourish here, let me ungroup it. It has an extra boundary around it. So I'm going to delete that. This is the flourish that if I was just doing a V-carve on a flat panel, no raise, this is the vector. This is the vector here without that extra line around. That's what's going to carve. But since I'm going to do a raise, I need a bit of an island for this flourish to carve on. So I need to create a profile line around it, a perimeter around that. So if I select this entire flourish, I can offset that outward. I'm going to go just 1/8 of an inch. We'll offset. And when it offsets, I'm going to come in, hold down the shift key and turn off that outside border, and anything else that's pink, I'm going to hit delete. Delete. I don't want those other offsets. I only want the outer perimeter. Now, once I've done that again, I'm just going to, for kicks and giggles, make sure I still am centered. Align to the center. Whoa. Group it first. Always important. G for group. Keyboard shortcut. G for group. U for ungroup. All right, perfect. All right, let me get rid of these vectors. Those must have been on another layer. Get rid of all that stuff. Okay. All of my lines and stuff are showing up because I have my layers active and all that stuff. So the we'll just call this our new design layer. And then we'll take all of these and copy them over to that layer. Wonderful. That way I can turn off the things that I'm not using. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead, just so you can get a sense of what's happening here. Let's go ahead and make the toolpath for the right side. Then we'll work on the left side stuff, right? So let's get a toolpath for the right side just so you can get a visual and it piques your interest and all that stuff, keeps you engaged with me and all that, and you don't go to bed and fall asleep, right? So we're going to select that right side of our vectors here. We're going to select the rectangle for the right side along with our flourish. We are going to do a V-carve toolpath. Now, on the flourish, let me say this. On the flourish, the it's going, if I didn't put that outside border around it, it would create what, when I do this, because I'm doing it raised, it would create a negative around it. A V-carve toolpath cuts between your lines, two lines. It skips the next two, cuts the next two, skips, and cuts in that pattern all the way across. So here, with this outside border being selected, that's one of the two lines, and the outside perimeter of flourish is the second. So it's going to be carving between those two lines, removing all that material. Then it's going to skip the area on these next two lines. It's going to carve, skip, so on and so forth, right? So until it's all the way across, basically. And so here, I want to set a flat depth of 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to go 3/16 deep, 0.1875. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit for my main decorative edge work and all. And then I'm also going to use a 1/4 inch end mill and an 1/8 inch end mill. And on this, I want to do a raster cut, and I want to cut 90 degrees. I want it to go vertical, up and down. So raster, 90-degree angle. This is going to be my panel 1 right. Panel 1 right. And I'm going to calculate that. Now, this, my vector validator, remember those square pixels and overlaps and everything I talk about that I said I had to clean up. This is what happens if you don't clean it up. It says, hey, you've got some overlaps in your selection. Do you want to continue with the carve, or do you want to go to the vector validator to find those possible issues and clean them up, right? And so in this case, I can go to the vector validator. And if I go to validate this right now, my flourish is grouped. And so, you know, some of the items and everything, we're going to, you know, we're going to be dealing with that group and stuff. So what I want to do is I want to come over here and I want to ungroup this for the moment. And I have what's called duplicates because I have two of these particular designs, right? And so if I come into the layers and all, I can turn off one of those layers and everything. And if I come in and ungroup this, I have more back there because I was designing this a few times, playing around with it and stuff. So I'm going to delete all my duplicates. That way there's no overlaps and everything. How you can tell visually that you have duplicates is the pink black lines. Now, if you have any color blindness where you're not able to see reds, blues, greens, you know, and other shades and things, it's a little difficult to pick this stuff up because there's really no way to change the vector lines from that selected vector from pink. There's no edit options, change the color, blah, blah, blah. It's always going to be pink. But when there's a duplicate, it's pink and black because the vector is a dotted line and it's showing what's behind it. And the background is white. So it's not black and, or it's not pink and white, it's pink and black. That means there's something else behind it. And once I delete those vectors and we come in and select again, you can see now that it's pink and white, right? Because you see in the background. And I knew these duplicates were in here, but if you didn't and you're like getting all these weird things and stuff, all you do is you right click on the screen and go down to select and then vectors and then all duplicate, right? And it'll go through and select all the duplicates that are in there. And then once it, now you've just told it to select the duplicates. So all you have to do at this point is just hit the delete key on the keyboard, or you can right click and hit delete as well. Your choice. I don't like the extra mouse clicks and all. Just hit the delete key on your keyboard, right? Or D or whatever. Now if we come in to select all vector duplicates, there should be none in this design, right? Cool beans. Now, just because I got rid of the duplicates doesn't mean I got rid of the issues. I still have overlaps and I still have little square pixels I want to delete and everything. So I know virtually where they are. I can see them and zoom into them and all that stuff and everything. But it's also, I can have the Vectric validator, the vector validator, help me with finding some of those. So I can select the entire design, go over to the vector validator, V-carve mode, search selected, and I'm going to have 12 overlaps, 16 intersections. And if we zoom in, we've got an overlap here where two vectors overlap there. We have overlap here. We definitely have, this is where all the overlaps are. There's multiples there because of that little, I call it a figure 8, right? And so we can go through and start selecting and hit delete, scroll out, go up to the next one. Now this one, I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to, you know, node edit and move, because if you look really closely, all it is the little point, just like cross the line. It just crossed the line, right? So if I come in here in the node editing, I can just simply pull that down. It's not going to change the design one iota. It's so microscopic. It's not even, you know, but you could even ignore it and just continue with your calculation. But it's nice to clean up, you know, and kind of get rid of those so you don't have those warnings popping up and everything. So Just pull that down. Now up here at the top, the other overlap that I had was the same situation. So while I'm in node editing mode, I can go ahead and just pull that back a little bit. And again, no big deal. Basically what's happened is when the graphic was traced, right? Now this is one vein coming all the way down here, right? But because the image was slightly pixelated, it wasn't really a good reference image and things like that. Then it traced these individual areas. So that's why we have, let me get out of node editing. That's why we have this. There's that square one we're going to end up deleting, and then that, right? It's individual when it should have been one continuous run. Now, if I wanted to take the time to clean that up and everything like that, I absolutely could. And what I could do is I could just come in here and let me see here. We'll delete this and that. Over here, we'll go into node editing, and I'm just going to pick a spot and cut the vector. I'll pick a spot over here, cut the vector, delete that point, come over here, pick a spot, cut the vector, another one over here, get rid of that point. And I have choices. I could join with a smooth curve to try to connect them together, but it's just as easy for me to come in and with the arc tool, click here and here, pull that up ever so slightly, come from here to here, pull that up ever so slightly, come in and rejoin, join tool, rejoin those, and just have that continuous vine, right? I could spend the time and do that on each one of those places. There are multiple places like that in here where this stem actually runs up to here, right? And it, it just because of the tracing, multiple places I could do that. But no, I'm not going to. It's not going to change my design whatsoever and all that stuff. On my square pixels, those are trash. You can just select trashy pixel, and there's no role. You can go through and delete and get rid of them if you want, all that happy jazz, right? So this, for the most part, is cleaned up. So let's go ahead and vector validate it one more time. And we have 0 overlap, 0 intersection, 0 length spans. Wonderful, happy-go-lucky. All right, let's go ahead one more time. Let's calculate this toolpath as we were just a moment ago about to do before the warning popped up on us. And let's preview our visible toolpath. Okay, wonderful. Now, here is one of the things when I deleted those vectors, those offsets, there was one offset
All right, you should be able to hear me now.
I lost audio for a moment.
Yeah, sound was turned off, ladies and gentlemen. I had a battery issue. All right. Wonderful.
All right, everybody should hear me now.
Yep. I've got microphones plugged in and charging. Whoever is beeping me, I know that I lost the audio. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot.
All right, everybody got me? Wonderful.
All right, let's find out by the audience here.
It's 12:47 when everybody said the sound is turned off. No audio. 12:46. Lainey, you muted. Let's go up here. No audio. So 12:45, and it is 20:45. It's 8:45. So it's 8:48. So 3 minutes of my talking you did not hear. I say a lot in 3 minutes. I say a lot in 3 minutes. So somebody in the chat, we'll see how well everyone was paying attention. What was the last thing that you heard me talking about? What was the last thing I was discussing? We were talking about the offsets. I recreated the offsets so that I could re-salvage some of these inner vectors that I needed for the pocket. But what else was I talking about? What else? All right. Let me know. What else was I talking about in the chat area? We lost audio at 8:45. It's 8:49 right now. I say a lot in 3 and 4 minutes, right? So let's figure out where we went wrong. All right. I'm going to recalculate this panel right toolpath. I'm going to add in the new vectors. Color blindness, yes. All right, very important. So that's important. Notice that we have the pink and white lines here. When we have something selected, there's no way of changing the selection color in Vectric. If Vectric or anybody from Vectric is listening and everything, we do have people out in the world that can't see certain shades of reds, blues, greens, and things like that. They do end up being darker and stuff, but it's really nice to know what I have selected, what I don't have selected, that kind of thing. And so I would love that to be one of the options. We can change other options. Let us change our selection color on the items that are selected, right? So love to see that in 12.5 or something. Okay, now the with the duplicates and everything, if I have duplicates, like I'll create a duplicate really quickly. Okay. When an item is duplicated, we will see that that pink selected dotted line has black behind it because it's a dotted line. So I should be able to see the background. The background is white. Well, that black behind it means that there's another vector in play. There's something else behind it. The pink is what I have selected. That's on top, so it's behind it. And it's a duplicate, right? And so when we are looking at duplicate vectors and all, we can come in and we can ask the software to select all the duplicates and we can have it delete it. We can hit the delete key on the keyboard, or we can just hit right click and hit delete to get rid of those duplicates and everything. So select all vector duplicates. There should be none in this design now, right? And there are some offsets and some vectors I do not want. I'm going to take a moment and go in and clean some of them up. And for the most part, I'll leave everything else. All right, so now let's select this entire panel again with our outside border. And we've gotten rid of the duplicates. We vector validated what you might not have seen. We went in and cleaned up all of those pixels. And did we lose audio when I redrew the stem? When I redrew this stem right here, when I redrew that, did the audio, was that y'all heard that part or not? Okay. Anyhow, in our vector validator, what I was talking about is just like I'll show you here, because of the quality of the trace of the image, some of the vectors did not trace properly because of pixelation and things like that in the graphic. And so like this little stem right here actually connects to this, and it should be one continuous piece. But it's not. They're separate pieces, and they're not connected. Now, I could go through and I could, fix all that and everything, or I could just let it carve as it's going to carve. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let it carve as it's going to carve. I've already cleaned up all the major potential issues. So we should have none, and should have, let's do that again. We should have none in our designs there, and we can just recalculate that. Okay. And the reason why we're going through the process of recalculating is that there were some inner areas that did not get carved away, and I want to make sure that they did, or they do. On here. Wonderful. All right. Now up here at the top, I'm going to let that slide, but if I wanted to go in with a 16th inch bit, a smaller bit, and remove some of this material in here, I could, but we're going to let it be the way it is. Now, let's add a little color to that to the let me get rid of toolpaths that don't belong. Delete the visible. There we go. We can't add really a lot of color to it because it'll fill in the whole thing, but just to give you a general idea. And so when I'm looking at this, right, that area, that's going to end up driving me nuts. But that area right there, I need to really offset that maybe a little bit smaller so I can get something in there, a bit in there and stuff to get that down, right? So that, we're kind of cutting through and all that. Again, it all comes down to the vector and the graphics and all that happy jazz. So let's see if I can just really quickly come in here. It's really this vector that I need to remove the material from within inside of it. Now, I'm going to basically just select this one vector. I'm going to V-carve it by itself. And I'm going to go the full depth here, but I'm also going to add in, I do have a 16th inch end mill, and I want to be able to get into those areas a little bit tighter, so I will use my 16th inch end mill to get up into some of these tighter areas. But I'm going to remove that area. And I'm missing the offset. Give me a second. Let's undo that. Let's offset that. I need to offset that inward. I can't really go 1/8 of an inch. There's not much of an offset. So let me see. Let's go just I want to go too small because it's got to have a little bit of consistency too. All right, we'll go with that. So I'm going to carve this, but I need this offset area, not that. All right, let's undo that last and redo that to clean that up. All right. So now turn off the color. You can see the area that got removed in there, add the color back, and I'll be happy with that. I'm not painting it. I just the color helps me see the differences and all that stuff. All right, now on this right panel, we're going to add a little bit of decor to it, right? Why not outward? Because of the vector that I had selected is the outside of my flower. If I, I need to go inward because it's not my outside border. I'm not going out this way. I'm going in this way because this is encompassed. It's enclosed. I'm going inward. It's not my outside flower. I'm not going outward. I only got one vector inside here, and I need to offset inward to remove the inner area. That's why not outward. And so now we're going to take the vectors and including this inside vector as well, all the inside stuff that I just created here. We're going to come in and select this inside vector, this big one. If you hear chains rattling in the background, it's not me. One of my fur babies is shake, rattling, and rolling. Okay. We got inside vector selected. Wonderful. All right. All those vectors and this border. That's all we want selected for right now, because now we're going to add a decorative texture in here. So we're going to use our texturing toolpath, and we're going to use an 1/8 inch ball nose. We can use really any size bit you want, but I'm going to use an 1/8 inch ball nose. Since my pocket area is already carved down 3/16 of an inch, that's where I'm going to start, 3/16. Now, from that 3/16, I'm going to go with a maximum cut depth of 1/16 of an inch further. It's going to have a minimum depth of 32nd, so it'll vary between those two depths with this texture. I'm going to have a maximum cut length when that bit's in and it cuts the wood of 1/2 inch with a minimum of just over 1/4 of an inch. It'll vary between those two. I'm going to go with a 30% overlap. So when that texture is coming and cutting, it's overlapping itself by 30% of the diameter of the bit with a variation of 50%. So 30 to 50% it's going to overlap. Now I'm going to step over. I always step over the half the diameter of my bit. So my bit is an 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. I'm going to step over a 1/16. And then I'm going to let that vary on the step over from a 1/16 to plus or minus a 1/64. So 0.0156. So it's going to really randomize the step over and everything on the pattern. Now I want the pattern to go vertical, up and down, so a 90-degree angle. And I want my ball nose bit not to hit my edges or my flourish area here. So I'm going to have it stay away from that flourish area by 0.15 inches. 1.5 inches. Now, the V-bit, it's a 60-degree V-bit cutting 3/16 of an inch deep. And if I were to determine how far away my bit needs to be so it doesn't cut into my bottom angle, you know, that angle that's coming down from the top, I could come in here and I could draw a 60-degree V-bit. I could, let me do that again because I think I snapped myself out of 60. There we go. I could draw a line across the bottom that represents my V-bit sitting on top of my board, right? Well, if I move that line up 3/16 of an inch, 0.1875, this represents that bit cutting into my board by that 3/16 of an inch. Now, if I come in and measure the offset distance from the tip of the bit horizontally to the edge of the blade where it's meeting the top of my board, that offset distance is 0.1083. As long as my offset in my texture tool is anything greater than 1.1083, I'm going to be good, and where the bit's not going to hit my little sidewalls of all my flourish and everything. If I'm less than 0.1083, then I am going to cut into it, right? So we'll go ahead and just make it a quarter, and we're going to calculate that tool path. So once again, let me go in and select the vectors because I forgot to hit the G for group. Select. When you have these things selected once, hit G, group them together in case you need them again. All right, so that one's done. That one's done. I need that one too. I need this one. That's cutting all the way through. Okay. Wonderbuzz. All right. So here we go. We're going to calculate this texture toolpath. Calculate. We'll get in, once we've done the long explanation of why we're doing this and why we're doing that and all that, the second panel that we do, we're going to kind of go through it a little bit quicker because we're going to get the shape down and everything. We're going to change it up just a bit. And then we'll, that way we end on time and stuff. All right, let's take a look at this panel. Let's go ahead and preview this visible toolpath to get that texture in there. And all that texture is doing is giving us a little bit of stippling, right? So just a little bit of stippling in that background, a little bit of little scoops, that 1/16 of an inch scoops, just gives the right side of that panel just a little nice touch, right? Just a little nice touch and everything. And, you know, on my main floral area here, if I was staining it or whatever the case may be, we can really just, you know, dress it up. Let me answer a quick question real quick. Have you noticed that occasionally the select duplicates command does not find all of the duplicates? Yes. So from time to time, it doesn't find duplicates only for the simple reason of this, JR, only because the line that's behind the other line is not an exact match. Duplicate, to duplicate one line versus the other, if that second line, that duplicate, is slightly different, maybe there's a little extra curve or something like that, or something got changed with a node, it is no longer a duplicate. It doesn't match. So the software will not pick it up, right? And so then, you know, you select a line and you're like, man, why is it, you know, red and black? Red and black usually means that that's a duplicate. But if I go and right click and select all duplicates and it doesn't pick it up, you know, it means that there's some slight difference that makes it where it's not an exact duplicate of the original, right? So that's why the Vectric software would miss it. All right, let's see how. Okay, so now we have, give me just one moment. Lainey is a new lover girl. Come here. You okay? All right, we'll get you something to eat in just a moment, baby girl. I know you're starving to death. I forgot dinner time before class started. So she has let me know. She's a husky. She's very vocal. Very, very vocal. All right. So that is going to be the right side of this particular wall panel or door panel. Okay. Now on the left side here, I have some vector lines already drawn out to help me along with this and everything. So my left lines, I've got some lines here. And with those lines, I'm going to bring them up. First of all, let me group them together really quickly. G for group. Let me bring these up here. And I'm going to draw a straight line from here to here. And I'm going to draw a straight line from here to here. That represents where my blocks are and everything. And what that allows me to do is to take that group of lines I have, and it gives me a snapping point. I can snap to the center there and snap to the center there because that is a center line. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. That is not a center line. Goofball. It's center this way. That line goes there. So all my middle lines are center lines. So I did not need those lines at all. At all. It does that line. That was my outer frame line. All right. What these lines are is I'm going to be taking a V-bit. Now remember, my V-bit just cut. I just did a V-carve on the right side. Okay. And on the right side, we're coming in here. It's cutting that perimeter all the way around, and it stops right here, right? It did this front part up here. Well, I'm going to continue that V-bit all the way around this inner edge, and then that bit is going to be cutting right down here between these blocks. Now, believe it or not, these blocks are just for layout, to help me lay out those lines and all, but they're actually not getting carved at all. The vector of the blocks are not getting used at all and everything. And so are we good with audio? Let me make sure I'm not losing audio again. So the line where that V-carve came and did that 3/16" cut depth on that border around here, well, now that line is going to continue across up and over, so it'll blend in, and then it's going to come and cut here to create the illusion of these blocks. Those blocks are for my visual purposes, but really all I needed to do was just draw lines if I wanted to. All right, let me see there. You didn't use a V-bit in the tool pathing. In the tool pathing, let me see here. I have a V-bit right here. So in the right panel, I've got a 1/4" end mill, a 1/16" end mill, and an 1/8" end mill with a 60-degree V-bit doing that little inner area, little bitty inner area there. And then on the bigger one, I have a 60-degree V-bit, 1/4-inch end mill, and 1/8-inch end mill. And the walls of my design here are at a 60-degree angle from the V-bit. So John, where, just in case I missed it, is it one of the other tool paths that we're talking about? Because the 60-degree V-bit did get used on this outside. It also did get used in here. Now for the stippling, that was a ball nose bit. Ball nose bit to create that textured stippling. And now notice that stippling did hit this side right here on that side and everything, and it did chunk in there. So I'm going to redo that for my 0.15 real quick. Change that back to my 0.15. I'm going to calculate that. Very, very quickly. All right, I'm going to undo the last and preview that visible toolpath one more time. There we go. All right, now if we zoom in, that 0.15 is staying away. If I can't really get on top of it, you can see that clear, it's pixelated, but you can see that clear line, that defined line all the way around the part. That's where the bit's staying away from. And then over here, same thing, staying, oop, that's too far in. Staying away from that edge. So that 0.15 brings me right up to the edge, just not on it. All right. So that's our part. That's our right side of our panel there with that stippling. Now, let's finish up this left side cut. So this left side cut are going to be these vector lines here. And the ungroup them, ungroup, deselect this line here, and then group the other lines back together so they can stay together. Now notice that this line overlaps into my textured area, and it's short over here. Well, my bit cutting down that 3/16 of an inch deep, there's a certain diameter on that, that V bit. There's a certain diameter that when it's down that low. So if I were to come over here on this 3/16 of an inch, adjustment here, if I were to measure from here to here, the other side of the blade, it's about 2165. That's how wide. When that bit is cutting 3/16 of an inch deep, that's how much of the bit, the width of the bit that's in that area, right? That's the diameter of the widest part of that depth, right? So if I drew a circle, 0.2165, and I came over here and I snapped it, to the end of the lines and all, you can see that when my bit cuts, it's going to cut. Now this is just cutting just right over the line. I don't want that. We'll zoom in. I'll show you what it looks like when we do the cut. And then I need to back up all the lines just so that the bit is just kissing this edge right here. Might as well do that right now. So let's do that right now. Zoom in and in. Let's come in and back that right up to that line. There we go. Now, by doing that, with that and the group selected, it moves everything, right? So by moving that in and just snapping there, it shifts all those lines that little bit. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and select those lines. And let's do a profile toolpath. cutting 3/16 of an inch deep with a 60-degree V-bit on the line. We're going to calculate that. Left dividing lines. All right, let's preview that visible toolpath. There we go. And then this line here that crosses over just a little bit so it blends, profile toolpath. Now, I'm not going to go on the line. I need to go on the inside of the line, but I need to make sure that I'm using the right, that I have the right node. So it's either going to be inside or outside, right? Well, imagine that this node, that's my end point. It's black. If we go down and, well, I think that's my start point. Let me go into node editing. It is. It's green. That's my start point. So imagine if I was standing right behind here looking at that start point in the direction that arrow is pointing, a little bitty arrow right there. If I was looking at that, this is my left side, inside left. This is my right outside, right? Now, if this were the start point, and I was standing here, this would be the inside left. This would be the outside right, because I'm here looking at the node. This is my right. This is my left. I'm standing here looking at it. Right, left. So where your start point is very important. If I had this as the start point and I chose inside left, it would be carving out here all the way around. Right? So it's very important. My start point is up here. So that way when I calculate inside left, and we go back to that 2D view, and I'll turn on solid view, you can see I'm cutting on the inside of that line. Okay? Inside of that line. Again, once again, if this starting would have been the starting point, and I calculate that same tool path, I would have been cutting on the wrong side of the line all the way around, right? Wrong side of the line. Okay, so it's very important. I would have had to have switched it up and told it to carve on the outside right, so that it carves on the inside, right? And it is the right and left and all that. It's all based on the start point. All based on the start point. So I'm going to go back up here. It doesn't matter at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and make that my start point again. I'm going to recalculate for the inside of the cut and calculate. All right. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and preview this. And I want you to see here, by this line going into my carve area, that 3/16, it should blend right into this edge that's already carved. So let's preview that visible toolpath and see if that's true. And it is true. So we come in here, it blends right in, creating that continuous look all the way around. And so there is my right side panel. All right. Excuse me for 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Okay, so I can tell her I'm hungry versus, hey, I got to go outside and tinkle wine. Oh. All right, wish they could talk. All right. So that is our first, that's panel number 1. Long explanation to get to this point and everything and all. Now we're going to create our second panel using the same fundamentals. We're going to create a new flourish, a different flourish this time. And we're going to give it a little bit of pizzazz, right? Okay. But this would be panel number 1. Very Art Deco type. We could, have these panels on a wall. We could have multiples of them to create kind of an array of art, on the wall. It could be cabinet doors. We could have, both where the squares on the outside with the flourishes facing in, or vice versa, whatever you want. The world is your oyster, right? So this is just, it could be a decorative panel. It could be wall art, doors for cabinets, whatever you want it to be. All right, so that's number one. Now, same fundamentals and everything apply and all. We're just going to change up the design a little bit, okay? So let's come in here and let's take this design and move it over to the right. Okay. Let's start off with two things. Number one, I want to create a border again. So with my border, I want to make sure that I'm going to be on my center mark for the anchor. All the numbers are still in there from the last rectangle that I drew. It remembers, so I just can click OK and recreate that new border, right? And you could literally go in and you can create so many. Definite orient fill kind of thing. Yeah, right. Orient, Asian, whatever, the Indian, flourishes and all that stuff. India, really nice decor. All right, so now still want to have that left and right, but we're going to change up the shape a little bit. I'm still going to create the I'm going to steal these vectors here. And that will there. I'm going to steal a copy of them. Holding the control key down, I'm going to click copy. Keep that control key held down when you let go of your mouse and you're dragging a copy, not the original. I still want to keep this kind of concept, but I want to change it up some, right? I want to keep this concept. Now, let's get our second flourish going. And we'll get our second flourish going, and then we'll make our changes and all. Why wouldn't you just carve the rectangles on the left? Why not just carve the rectangles on the left? Well, given the spacing of those rectangles, right? Given the spacing of the rectangles, I'll just do two of them as an example. If I had two of them selected and I do a V-carve toolpath, profile toolpath, 3/16 of an inch deep, 60-degree V-bit on the outside of the line on those, and I calculate, and let's reset this back to a blank board and preview this. Number one, I got an extra line selected. Hold on a minute. Do I have an extra line selected? Profile toolpath. Calculate. All right. Given the size of my bit, that 0.26 inches at 3/16 of an inch deep, it doesn't fit, right? So it doesn't fit where the space is. So the toolpath isn't going to get calculated. And so I would have to, in order to do that, if I want that 3/16 of an inch deep and I want to use that 60-degree V-bit to keep everything consistent in the look and all, I would have to increase the spacing between my two parts, or I would have to shallow up the cut. Now, let's say I shallow up the cut. Let's go with that same cut. But let's do it at 1/8 of an inch. And I calculate that cut, and I preview the visible toolpath. Now I've cut in between those two parts, but it leaves this ridge because the bit's cutting on the outside of one. the outside of the other, and I have that ridge. So now if I wanted to get rid of that ridge, I need to bring the parts closer together. Blah, 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 right? I got to do all that stuff, you know, if I try to carve around the individual rectangles. But by creating the rectangles to help me with my spacing and layout and creating the center line between those, my bit now can carve as deep as I want it to, and because I'm carving on the line. And so when I come in and do a profile cut, excuse me, I can now go my 3/16 of an inch deep with my 60-degree V-bit on the line. And when I calculate that, I can preview that visible toolpath and, you know, cut that. Now, excuse me, it cuts down to that 3/16. It gets rid of that groove that was created by the other, you know, trying to do them individually, blah, blah, blah. And so if I do this and I create that vector and I create the, you know, the perimeter vector here, and I create that, it creates the illusion of those parts. Let me get that vector going too. Bear with me just a second. It creates the illusion of those blocks with those vector lines anyway, right? So that's why we do that. That's why we do the lines and not the shapes. The shapes are there to help us with our layout, that equal distance spacing that I wanted between those. I wanted those 12 blocks equally spaced with a 0.198 offset on the backside and the top and the bottom. And so it created that equal spacing in between. And now I'm finding that center line between each of those parts. And that's what I'm cutting to create that part. So hopefully that helps with that explanation. All right, let's let's start back with now. Sorry, do I have some? Yeah, I do. Give me just a second. Oh my goodness. How many of you drink Southern sweet tea and iced tea? Oh my gosh, so good. Okay, so the this panel, we're going to trace an image for our different flourish, and we're going to change it up some. Really give it a different looking style here, but I still want the same concept of the squares and everything, but we're going to just switch it up. I don't know how you opened the door and got back in, but I'm amazed, little girl. You can lay down there. I wish I could pan my camera down and show you Lainey, but she's a beauty. Let's get our image in. Let's import our bitmap image. Let's rotate her around. Okay. Getting all choked up here. All right, let's get, I'm not going to use all of this. I'm going to use some of this, but let's get it traced. The trace tool, I'm going to turn off the fading. I'm going to slide this to 75. Anything beyond 75, you start picking up a lot of trash. So 75 is my cutoff, and it's usually my go-to for each of the flourishes. 82%, that default corner fit. I'm a big advocate of that default corner fit. And then I'm going to turn up the noise filter. We'll go with 5. We'll create that tracing. Click apply. Actually, let me bring that noise filter down to 3. Yeah, it didn't change anything. All right, click apply. Close, and then let's turn off that bitmap layer. All right, over here on the right, I'm going to fix my pedal, and I've got a couple of little overlaps to clean up. So a couple little things to fix up here. But go into node editing. I'm going to cut the vector here and here to delete that right side down there. And then I'm just going to rejoin that with a smooth curve. Close that back off. Now, there's certain things on here that I'm using and certain things that I'm not using. Let's group it together and get it into position. Get it sized and all that stuff. All right, now I'm going to align this up and down my material. Just up and down, get it centered on the material there. All right, and I'm going to bring it over just a little bit on this side here. I'm going to ungroup this really quickly because it's right there in my face. I'm going to get rid of that square pixel. Let's see, are there any more that I need to deal with while I'm here? No, just the one. All right. That is actually part of the flower, the little indentation there. I'm actually going to go into node editing, and I'm going to open that up a little bit more. I'm going to grab this and just pull this back a little bit here. I'm going to grab this one in the end and just pull that back a little there just to open that space a little bit more right there. And I do not want those two items. I do not want that item or that one. Good. And I do want to create kind of like almost like a platform, like this thing is coming out of the ground. I'm going to draw a rectangle here, and I want to go on node editing, and I want to just change it to an arc so it rounds off on the end there. Change that to an arc. I'm going to use arrow keys on my keyboard to bring that in just a little bit. I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. Make sure I'm overlapping. Overlapping I am. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim these two items here. Here to connect those. I'm going to trim here to connect that. And then I'm going to trim there to connect that. So basically kind of like these are coming up out of the out of this little platform, if you will. All right, now I want my squares on the left to follow kind of the flow of these flowers and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm pretty decent at freehand, but I'm not the greatest. So, but let's see how well I can do. I can always node edit. Let me get this kind of front and center so everybody can see. Everybody can see. Let me, there we go. All right. I'm going to try to freehand this a little bit. So here we go. Oh, way off. That's what node editing is for. All right, so what I'd like is I'd like this to come over a little bit more. Come out. I'd like it to have a little bit let's get rid of this middle point because that middle point is causing a flat spot. So I'd like it to have a little bit more of that arc, you know, no flat spots, a nice just flow. Here, I want to get rid of this middle point right there so that I can pull this. And this middle point actually needs to come up some, right about there. Want to come out and around. I want to keep going. Now, when it gets here, this will make sense in just a minute. I want to get rid of this point, and this is going to get pulled back. I want to start turning the corner right at that leaf, and then we'll bring this down here, give it a little bit more. Not too much. Not too much. Okay. These things are like teeter-totters. You pull one, it changes the other. Pull one, it changes the other. Okay. Let me fix my... All right. Now, my squares, this will make sense, I swear, in just a minute. All of my squares and my lines, technically, it's really the lines and everything, but all the squares, my big square on the right-hand side over here, this one, that's going to go, it stays where it's at over there, but on the left-hand side, it's going to end up, we're going to end up connecting this together. This is going to, the panel is going to kind of have this curve to it. So make sure that we're all connected there, because I'm going to take my scissors and I'm actually, I'll just trim that. We'll leave that alone. This gets trimmed at the bottom. Did I lose microphone again? Hello? All right, we'll see. All right, come down here and let's trim it right there. That should connect this all the way around as one line. Let's take the scissors and trim it one more time. There we go. That should connect all the way around to there. And basically, let me pull it off so you can see what's going on. We've created this shape right here for that frame, okay? That's what we just did. All right. Now, let me node edit. I don't want to move this. I want to keep that exactly where it is there, but I'm short. I ran a little short on that right side. So node editing, okay, and node editing, I'm able to pull my line back to that border frame, right? Okay. Now let's get out of node editing. All of my lines, all my center lines and everything, all my rectangles, all that stuff. This line can go away so it's not confusing anyone. All of this, okay. I need to extend, so stretch, if you will. So I don't want to stretch. I don't want to stretch my frame out here, so I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so that I'm just when I double click on this and I pull this out, right? I'm just pulling it out to create an overlap. Okay, just pulling it out to create an overlap. Now, with that, I can take my scissors and again, the squares, well, no, let's not take the scissors. Let's do this smart. Forget the scissors and trimming and creating all the open vectors and all that. Smart. We're going to take this and make it a trim boundary. Okay. Now, again, keep in mind, these rectangles are not getting cut. They're just there to help with the layout. It's actually the center lines that are getting cut. Okay. So what we want is these center lines to be over this line just a small amount so the bit can run over. But just because the rectangles aren't getting cut, we're still going to trim them to this line visually for visual purposes, right? So everybody can see, get an idea of what this panel is going to look like. So I'm going to select these. I'm going to hold down the shift key and turn off my little, right? They're all grouped together, so they should shut off. And with all those selected, I'm going to group them together. G for group. Those. So I have one group selected now. Hold down the shift key, and I'm going to select this boundary line. Now, if these rectangles were going to get carved, then I would absolutely create an offset of the boundary line so that when I do this trim that I'm about to do, they won't land on that line. They'd be off of it, because when I land, it's going to create what's a duplicate, right? Or an overlap, an overlap. And you'll see in a second, and I'm doing that intentionally. I'm creating the overlap intentionally. So come into the trim tool, not the scissors, but the trim tool, and we're going to clear inside the boundary. The boundary is the last item I selected, and the last item I selected was that curved boundary, right? So when we clear, it's going to redraw those rectangles around that trimmed boundary. And let me make sure my boundary, okay. It won't trim around the boundary if the boundary is not a closed vector. It's got to be a closed vector. So let me hit undo. My boundary is not a closed vector. It has an overlap right here. So if I pull this line down, you can see it's overlapped, right? So I need to delete that span. And I should be able to look right at my join, and I should see that it's a closed vector now, right? And now that it's a closed vector, and how I knew that it wasn't a closed vector is because the minute I clicked that trim tool, nothing happened. It didn't do anything. It didn't trim. It didn't do anything. Okay. And yes, if those were doors, you would mirror the panel for sure. When I clicked on that trim tool and nothing happened, it didn't redraw those shapes to that curve immediately. The reason why it didn't work is because it will not trim to an open vector. All right, so let's do that one more time with our blocks selected. Select our grouped or our closed vector now, and let's trim that again. And you see how it redraws that, right? So now those blocks are following that curve. Okay. All right. Now, as far as my lines here, they're a group. I can just select on them, and I'm going to pull them back. I just need them to have a little bit of an overlap here, but not so much back here, right? So I have to ungroup them, and I got to do them one at a time. So just going to pull that back to where there's a little overlap over that line. There's no, like, it doesn't have to be a certain distance. As long as it goes over in the V-bit at that depth of 3/16 it's going to cut, as long as it, gets past the line just far enough to where it can clean up that space in between. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. This one does not need to be this long. Hey, there's a figure 8 right there. Right there. We can go ahead and delete that while we see it. There we go. Just a little bit of overlap. Okay. Now, the same thing here on my boundary, okay? On that boundary line, one, I need this, and let's go to node editing. I need this to come past the line here to where it blends in with that edge there. And up here, I need that to come in just past the line and blend with that edge because it's going to cut that edge just like it did on the other one. All right. And also this line, let me get out of node editing. This line right here is two separate. There's a duplicate, but it's not a duplicate, but there's another line behind it. This is what I was talking about with JR earlier. This, if I select it, you can see that pink and black versus the pink and white. Pink and white, you can see that it starts turning black here. There's another line back there, right? So if I select this, both of them, hold down the shift key and turn off this top one, then this back one is still selected. I can hit the delete key on the keyboard and that overlap should be gone, right? And we should have it nice black and white. But it wasn't a duplicate because it didn't match it 100%. It only went 90 degrees. It was just a 90-degree line. And so selecting all duplicates, it wouldn't have selected it as a duplicate. All right. So now if I go to carve in here, right? Once again, go to carve in here. Once again, it's going to create a negative carving because the V-bit on this carves in between the lines. If I was just doing a simple V-carve, it's carving between the lines and everything to make these flowers look pretty and all that stuff. Regular V-carve, let me show you it right now. Regular V-carve. Okay, select that. There's no offset on it or anything like that. V-carve toolpath. We'll put a flat depth in it. That's fine. We'll just leave all those tools. It's not going to calculate for some of them. And preview that visible toolpath. Right? So if I was carving this, let me add some color just for, reference purposes and all. If I was just carving this, right? That's how I'd want it to carve. Okay? Now, I want to carve it inside this border, this curved border here. If I just straight up calculated that as is without putting an offset around it, then it's going to create, for the flowers, it's going to create the negative of the flowers. So everything that was once raised up is now going to be carved down, and everything that was down is going to be raised up. So if I preview this, this is a carving with a negative. It doesn't look good at all, but it's the negative of the flowers, right? So let me turn the color off, and you can see that it's created that negative. So in order for me to get that positive back, I need to add an additional line around the floral area and everything, and I need to create that offset, okay? So we're going to select that floral area and offset it outward. And I like a small offset. 1/8 of an inch, 16. You know, we're creating an island for it to carve on. So I like an 1/8 of an inch. It looks really good and all for most part. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 0.125 and I'm going to offset. Okay. Now on this offset, it creates all these lines around the outside, but it also creates the lines on the inside of the petals. I don't want that. Okay. I want the outside border. So I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to select the outside border. And now I have a couple of floaters here that I need those. I need the ones around those leaves there. But I need that outside border on these leaves up here, that one and that one. This leaf right here, I need that border. But everything else, let me verify really quickly my flower here. What I want to carve, we'll keep. Give me just a moment. Okay, we'll keep that one. We'll keep the stuff. All right, we'll keep the ones in the middle. So all these, we'll keep this one and that one. We'll keep that one. Even that little one right there, we'll keep. None of the petals. We're not keeping any of the petals. We'll keep that and that. I'm holding the shift key down, deselecting the ones I want to keep. The ones I don't want to keep are going to get deleted. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hit delete to get rid of the rest. Now, with that offset, I should be able to come back in and select that and my frame again. Calculate that toolpath. I got Vector Validator. I can see the overlap right there on the flower petal. I got one or two. Let's reset that and preview the visible toolpath. Okay, my inside of my leaves, those vectors had to go away too. Let me see here. Hold on a minute. All right, it did not calculate because of an overlap and intersection. Let me find all the overlaps, and then I'm going to recalculate that again because it should have calculated those leaves. It should have cut here, skip there, cut there. So leaves did not. The ones I said, oh, I want to keep those, they did not need. Let me think about this. Give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. The flowers are correct. All the leaves are wrong. All the leaves are wrong. Dun, 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 dun. In the sky is green. That's not the right words. All right, let's see here. All the leaves are wrong. And the stems are all wrong. Stems are all wrong. All right. When it comes to this, I'm going to take a step back. Control Z to undo. Control Z to undo. This is just my regular flower. I want to just take a look at it visually one more time. Calculate just the flower. I want to see it visually one more time. Okay, that's what it should look like. That is 100% correct. So my leaves are carved in. Why was I second guessing myself? That is, the stems are carved in. The petals are raised. No, that was right. It just visually looked odd to me. Okay, let me put it back. Control Y, redo offset. Redo delete. Select the border, and then I'm going to do a vector validator. Make sure there's nothing that would cause any issue. Just a zero length span, nothing, no issues there. All right, so that's no issue. All right, let's create that toolpath one more time. I'll just create a new one. Let me turn off the toolpath. Oh, wait, stop. Reset the preview and then preview, Laney. Let's do it that way, buddy. I didn't have the inside vector selected, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here we go. One more time. Preview the visible toolpath. Lord, have mercy. Have mercy on me. All right, let's get rid of the color. Let's add in the texture. Now, on the leaves, I mean, that's right. It's right. I'm going to reverse everything except for the petals. So I am going to deselect all of the inside of the feathers, the stems, hang tight with me, ladies and gentlemen. I am all right. Some of the feathers, or not feathers. Why am I saying feathers? Leaves. Some of the leaves are connected. And there's not a lot I'm going to be able to do about that. All right, so that stem is not going to, that's going to be solid. It's going to carve between here, or skip between there, sorry, skip between there. it's going to skip between there. I need that. So right here, this pedal is connected. I want to be able to turn this pedal on, but it's connected to the boundary right here. So when I select it, it selects all the way around, blah, 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 to that. And so I need to isolate it. So what I'm going to do is what I have selected right now, I'm going to hit G for group. Well, that's a lie. Ungroup. And I'm going to turn, where's it at? That one right there. If I zoom in, I'll turn that off. I'm going to hit G for group just so I don't have to reselect everything. I'm going to go into node editing. I'm going to cut the vector back here and here, here, and here. Really just pick a couple of places. I'm going to delete that tip and that tip. Now this line, that connects for the outside border, and this line, that connects for the inside of the flower. So now the flower, I can select that separate. So now when I select my group, everything that was grouped, I can hold down the shift key. Let me hit U to ungroup, but I can hold down the shift key now and select that pedal. This one, same thing. When I select on it, it selects all of the inside of that stem because of the opening right there. So I'm going to hit G for group, just so I don't have to keep going back and reselect. Node editing. I'm going to cut the vector here. Now, on that vector that I just cut, I'm going to just pull it over here and pull this one over here. Smooth that out a little bit. And then I can just take my scissors and trim there to create that separation. So now I can go back, select my group, hit U to ungroup, so I can put that pedal in as part of my selection. So now the inside of this, I need not to be selected. That stem not to be selected. This stem not to be selected. I need this to be selected, but not that. Come up here. Not selected, not selected, not selected. All right, I believe I've got it. G for group, so I don't have to do that again. All right, let's come in and select everything but the leaves. Now I have one leaf that's by itself, and I got two of them. I should really, if I went ahead and took the time to fix those petals, I should fix those two leaves real quick. So really quickly, ungroup. Let's turn this off and this off. G for group. That way I'm only working one thing at a time, all the black stuff. Node editing, and I'm going to just cut the vector here and back here. Get rid of that point. Over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Pick two spots. Get rid of that point. Now, this outside line connects to this line here, and this line around the leaf connects to this line around the leaf. So I'm going to just select this and select this. And when I click on join with a smooth curve, I want to see what lines connect to each other. So when I do that, my outside line connects to the inside, and so it's backwards. So I'm just going to freehand it, click here and here. And then here and here. Now that I have at least 2 lines there or whatever, I'll smooth them out and straighten them up and all. But let's join them. So this, oops, I ran a little short right here. All right, this leaf and that leaf comes around in this. Comes around. All right, I got one more connection down here. Get rid of that point. And up here, where the leaf and the stem kind of come together, I'm isolating the leaf. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm isolating the leaf. So I'm going to cut the vector here and here to get rid of that point. So the inside line here and here is going to connect together. So this line and this line are going to, and this line are going to join. Those 3 are going to join as one open vector. And then on that open vector, it's going to join with a smooth curve. And on that smooth curve, I'm going to go into node editing and just kind of straighten it out a little bit. Now this line, I'm actually going to take these 3 nodes. I'm going to pull them up just a bit. And I'm going to connect them to this stem. Oops. That and that. I'm going to join with a straight line for right now. And then I'll finesse it with a little node editing. Just give it a little bit of life. All right, so now I've connected that stem up through there, and I still have one more connection. Let's get out of node editing so we can see it. So here on this inside, I've got to connect this with that line. Here, I've got to go over and close up that vector. It's too open right now. I got to close it off. Now, I don't care that there's not a lot of space there, but now I should be able to come in here. And I should be able to, on this, turn off my stems and the inside of the leaves. On this one, this is technically the right side of the stem, so I'm going to turn off that inside vector. This is going to oh, I need to ungroup. There we go. This outside perimeter is still connected to that leaf. This is where you can really spend too much time. We're going to wrap this up. It's 10:11, so give me a second. We're going to get this just right. All right, turn that off. Turn that. All the inside of the leaves have to be turned off. Okay, all the inside of the petals have to be lit up. Okay, good. 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 Okay. I got one leaf right there. We're going to call that for a minute. Let me hit G for group, just so I have that group. Let me do a V-carve toolpath. I got to really kind of see where I'm at. Let me get rid of the junk. Delete all visible. These are all junk ones that I created a moment ago. Let's create a brand new toolpath, selecting our group and calculating it just to see where I've got most everything, but there's a few leaves. So let's reset this and preview the visible toolpath. Now at this point, my leaves should be raised up. I need to turn off this. Will make sense. Give me just a moment. I need to turn off those two vectors. We're almost there. Turn U to ungroup. Turn this inside one off. Make sure the toolpath is open, right? So turn that one off and that one off. And that one. That's good. When I clean up, that'll be good. And this one right here in the middle, this long one's got to get turned off. All right, so right here in the middle, that's got to get turned off. All right, now calculate. Reset the preview the visible toolpath. When you raise things up and all, that's where things start to, come into all right, now all of that's good. That's good. Now I need my little decor, the stems that I turned off and everything. Let me see here something real quick. Yeah, all these stems and everything that I turned off. Now I should, God, I hope this is right. I should be able to do a come on, dude. I should be able to do a shallower V-carve cut. I'm going to go 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to calculate that toolpath. Preview that toolpath. Nope. All that was for naught. Holy camole. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All that for nothing. Okay. I am going crazy with Control Z right now. I'm backing all the way up, getting rid of all of those changes. Come on, dude. Okay. This is my original tracing right here. This is my original tracing. And if I carve in between here, I want to do this one more time with no offset. V-carve toolpath, no offset around it. 0.1875. Calculate. This is my original tracing. Got rid of all that crap that I just did that was for nothing. Reset the preview. Preview the visible toolpath. Well, what the hell? That's the right. What did I? That's right. That's right. What was I doing? What was I doing? All right, let's see here. Let's look at some of the comments. Messy vectors always bite back. Yeah, reminds me of folding standard glasses and all. In a nutshell, selecting a V-carve box forces the software to focus on items. Yes. Okay. We're going to, yeah, right. That is what it's supposed to look like. Now, with all those vectors selected again, everything except for all of my inside stuff. I need just kind of the outside lines, the leaves too, but all the inside stuff. Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare putting a texture around that. Because it's going to want to carve inside the petals with the texture. So I'm going to offset outward just for the texture a small amount. We're going to go 0.125. Okay. All right. Delete. What I should have now is I should have a vector around these items and just around the perimeter for the texture to carve around. I don't want to carve inside any of this, right? I don't want to carve inside any of this. If the texture carves in there, okay. Texture toolpath, Lord of mercy. All right, let's go here. We're going to start at 316 since keep the same texture. I'm going to stay. I've already got my border, that 0.15 offset, really, but I still have the offset of the frame here. So the let me do that really quickly. I'm going to take this frame and offset it inward with sharp corners, the same distance. Oh, wrong direction. And I'm just going to use that offset with this texturing toolpath, and I don't need to put an offset down here, a boundary offset. I can go right up to that line. So calculate, holy camoly. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That was, there's nothing that's just right. No, nothing that's just right, but you can't have it just wrong either. There's got to be that fine little line. But on here, it's just the way the image is traced. If the petals would have traced individually and all that, it would have been, everything would have been okay. All right, so we are creating the texture right now, texturing toolpath. And for the most part, we should be good. And then once I create the the profile toolpath for the left side, we should have the illusion of that S-curve coming in here. So let's see what we do. We're almost done. We're about to wrap up in 3 minutes. As soon as this texture processes. Okay. So the inside lines, let me turn off the color here. The inside vectors were a no-no for that. Outside is fine. So I do need to, on that texturing toolpath, I do need I am going to put a little bit of a boundary right here. Let that calculate one more time. Okay, let's undo last and preview the visible toolpath. Okay, turn off that color. All right, I probably could have went a little closer than 0.15. One more time. Undo last. Let me do that one more time. Let's bring it in just a little bit closer. Should be good here because we already have that 0.15 offset. We should be good. Let it calculate, and then we'll do our left side, and then that'll be it for panel number 2. The flower probably could do a little bit better with the flower choice. I saw it, thought it looked good. But could probably do a little bit better. All right. Still a little bit inside here getting hit, but that's okay. For the most part, it brought it closer. I still have a little bit of space around everything. We'll call that good. Let's go ahead and select this vector, and it's going to be a profile toolpath. Remember our start point, right? So we want to make sure that our start point, let's go to node editing, is at the top. So make that the start point. We're going to do a profile toolpath, cutting 3/16 of an inch deep on the inside left of the line. That's going to create that nice blend, right? Nice blend coming in there. And then on the side here, we're going to select all of our center lines. And so we can, let's see here. We'll turn off that box. So center line, center line, center line. Make sure the leaves are not selected. Turn off that box. Make sure that's not selected. Make sure that's not selected. All right, nothing that's not supposed to be selected is selected. So we're going to profile cut on the line, 3/16 of an inch deep. Calculate. Preview the visible tool path. Okay. All right. So now, again, flower choice or that flourish on the right could be better, right? We all agree with that. Could be better. Could be something different. While it looks okay or looks good, it could still be better. It could be something different or better, right? Now, where does this inspiration come from? Laney, I know you did not pull this out of your butt, right? You didn't pull this design out of your butt and be, you're not that creative, my boy. Where is this? Where does this stem from and everything? And the inspiration for these type of panels come from, let's see here. Here is a fancy door. Another design type, right? A little bit wider. 3D model going on for the flowers, right? That's that's kind of an option. And then let's come over here, close out of that. Stand by. All right, so here's another style, kind of similar with that wave, right? This one has a nice dividing line, bigger gaps, in between. It's got this kind of great grill looking. Looks like these nice floral vines are coming out of a rock wall or something, a little pot and stuff like that, right? So these, decorative panels, these are just, general designs. And if you want to see more like that, you can Google decorative wall panels and all that stuff. And you can kind of, there's some beautiful, really, really, really beautiful examples of just awe-inspiring projects. And then, I love this style. I would carve the first one. I would totally carve that and have that hanging on my walls. I would have multiples of them. I would totally, have something like that as, my cabinet doors, in a kitchen or something like that. And of course, like Kim was mentioned earlier, if I'm going to have cabinet doors, I need them to be mirrored, a mirrored copy of, of the panel. So they kind of, there's a little bit of symbiosis, right? Homogeneous, harmonious. So the it needs to have that some kind of rhythm. So the can you mirror to make the cabinet doors image? Yeah, so for sure you can. I can't show both doors side by side, of course, and everything in there, but you can, when you have your vectors and all, you can go into the mirror tool and you can flip them horizontally to create that. Here, hold on. Move out of the way. Oh, where are you going? Right? You can create that door panel with that, those flowers, right? Like imagine like a little bathroom vanity. The door is a little bathroom vanity, or imagine a curio type cabinet for hanging clothes. Homogeneous. Thank you. Homogeneous, not homogeneous. Thank you. I knew the word, I just couldn't think of the word. But you could really, imagine, what that would be. And the let's see here. Let's see. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Long stem flowers. Long stem flowers. Give me a second. Let me see if I can Google, right? On amazing 3D carvings, right? Let's see here. Let's go down. Amazing 3D carvings, right? Amazing. Hey, who's that guy right there? Who's that? That's me. Oh, look at that. All right, anyway, let's see. Let's close that. But that's a good picture. Okay, let's see. Come on down the road. Let's see. What are we? I'm trying to, bear with me. These are all wonderful, amazing projects by people. Credit goes to you all, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. I don't have any. Come on now. Show me. I know there's got to be, in all of these millions of photos, there's got to be a door panel. There's one, but that's not what I'm looking for. Right here. So there you go. Right? Look how pretty that is. Imagine. Now this one, they've taken kind of that square concept as well. But every, they kind of got two, and then they got a nice little 3D model in between some, matching, numbers here and here, right? 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, 4 in between. And then this beautiful flourish that kind of encompasses that with the edge of the model. That's a 3D model and everything. But really creates a beautiful panel, right? So 3D cart in it, you could probably buy that STL file or whatever. So shout out to them for making some pretty stuff. And so you could really, just really have some fun with it. All right, cutting time. Everybody's wanting to know the cutting time. Now, whoever said it, someone said it, the texture, JR, I believe, said it, the texture is really, really going to cause this to be a very, very long carving. But let's take a look. Our V-cut profile, our center line, that edge band, the texture. Let's leave the texture out for a second. The carve 1, 2, 3, 4. If we look at the time, based on my machine and everything and all, we're looking at 3 hours and 49 minutes. No texture, right? 3 hours and 49 minutes. Now, we kick it up a notch and we put that texture in there, and we are at 8 hours and 56 minutes. So that texture for a 30-inch tall panel, 18 inches wide, but we're doing half of it, so half of that on the texture. You've added an additional 5 hours, roughly, estimated, 5 hours of carving for that texture. But man alive, let me tell you something. Hold on a second. Let's take our final goodbye. Let's preview these visible tool paths without the texture, right? And we'll look at the first flower too. All right, so absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever, right? As far as, not having a texture on there, 3 hour carving, no worries. Okay, beautiful. Now let's reset that for a second. Let's look at I believe that's all. Preview this one. This is that first flourish. Now that one by itself is, that's with the texture, right? So now let's look at that same one without the texture, and we'll look at the times again. So this is that same carving without the texture. Nothing wrong with it, but the texture really, really does. Let's see what the carving time on this one is. 29 hours. That's that's everything. Hold on a second. Scared me there for a minute. What? All right, hold on. It was not 29 hours. Jeez Louise. With the texture, 7 hours and 49 minutes with the texture for that first one. 2 hours, 10 minutes without the texture. Right? And now the bottom one, coming back to here really quickly. Again, this panel does not look bad at all, but we throw that texture in there. And it just adds a little something to it, It's not a very deep texture, just a little stippling and all, just to kind of bring that out. And again, the same thing with this bottom one here. With that little bit of texture in the background, it just gives it a little something, you know what I mean? And so, once again, on the time on that one, about, what would I say, 8 hours? Let's go here. 8 hours, 56 minutes, right? So, it's really not that bad at all. for what it is and what it's doing and stuff, it's not that bad. And the reason why, we're running up to 200 or 300 inches a minute or what have you, but the reason why it's so long is because the bit is only doing little half-inch marks, and it's going up, down, up, down, up, down, those little half-inch marks. It's overlapping by 30%. It's varying. It's doing all kind of random. And it's got to do that entire 29-inch area with that little half-inch with a 30% overlap, So, it's overlapping each time it cuts 30%. And it's randomizing, but still, you can see how 30 by 18. You can see how tedious that would be for the machine, right? And so that's going to take 5 hours to do that, right? It's one of those things where, you do all the carving, the raised side and all, the textures kind of last. I call it the optional texture. When I'm naming the texture toolpath, I always put the word optional in there. And it's the optional because, after that carving and everything, I could really look at it and say, that looks good. Or I could run the optional texture toolpath, right? And if I'm running a texture toolpath, I'll usually run it and I'll be doing something else for that next 5 hours, I'm not going to sit there and babysit it. Imagine a 7-foot door. That's exactly right. But take a look at, the examples of these types of wall art and panels online. Literally, we just drew this from scratch. We traced our flourishes, your little graphics and everything. Let me turn off these toolpaths. Little graphic, little flourish and all that stuff. Get a trace, and then it's just squares and lines. It's not real complicated. This is a V-carve. It's now those other samples I showed you online, the Google and all that stuff. Those pictures, those ones I showed you on it, those were 3D models, right? So instead of the flourish vector here, you could go into your clip art that came with your Vectric software, and under the plants and where's my plants? Next one down. There's all kinds of plants and fruits that one could do, or I like the decorative, right? There's all kinds of decorative elements and stuff that could have been in that 3D model. The drop down bow, I'm just trying to look and see, getting tongue tied. There's a few good ones that could be used for that model. That's a nice one, the Flourish 142D. So there's a lot of nice examples. Or heck, if I didn't have what I needed in here, there's designandmake.com. There's 3D. There's 3D models everywhere. Turbo Squid, CG Trader, Design and Make. There's all kinds of places. Etsy. Etsy's a great place to get model files and stuff. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, right? And you could really play along with it and all. There's another one. Let me show you another door. Give me a second. It's really pretty. I think it is. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. KD. Let me go back down. It's from the same company, KD Mart India, in.in. Really pretty file. And I believe they sell the files, right? You can actually buy the files. It is, bear with me. You're not seeing what I'm doing because I'm doing it on another screen. So I'm not. Come on, Katie. Where are you at there, Katie? Indian Mart. Okay, so yeah, fancy doors. Okay, so fancy doors. Bear with me. I'll track it down. Got it. All right, let's say that fancy door number 3. Open it up. Fancy door number 3. So again, same square concept, right? You know, same kind of thing. This time in the top right corner, they've got this kind of, that's just squares with pyramid cuts on it, you know, like with a V-bit. It creates kind of these like little peaks, square peaks and stuff. This is just a flourish. You have a model just like that flourish right there and just like those flowers in your Vectric software, right? In your Vectric software. So all it is one of those models multiplied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, kind of creating that little pattern. And then, you know, this could be vectors. You can do this. Doesn't have to be a 3D model cut. You could do this with pocket cuts with these vectors, and you could have a round over bit, do the round over edge and all that. But you could also, if you have a spire, you could also build that model. It's a really pretty door, and it's got that nice arched top, right? So those arched top doors and all, they don't have to be square and everything. And again, same kind of concept, just a little bit of a square and flow, very simple shapes. Not overly complicated, you know, fancy doors from India Mart. Wonderful examples. And the files, this fancy door file, I believe they sell the STL files or SVGs or whatever. I'm not sure. 3dmart.in. 3dmart.in. I believe it's the 3D model files, right? You can buy those, you know, and everything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate your time this evening. And the one thing that I'm gonna, you know, say, if I could, is don't forget that thumbs up and subscribe now if you haven't subscribed before. But yeah, turn on your notifications for notifications of when I put out content. Usually every Thursday night around 8 to 8:15, right? We'll get out there eventually. And Wednesday night for the paid subscribers of Spindle TV. But give me a thumbs up, you know, if you like the video, because it really helps with the algorithm. And y'all have a wonderful evening. If you have class suggestions, everybody, if you have class suggestions and everything, go ahead and email them to me, laney.shaughnessy@spindletv.com. Throw out some ideas, because it's tough sometimes. It's tough sometimes coming up with new ideas every week, week after week after week after week, you know. And I'd love to be able to create classes based on what you want to learn, right? Whether I don't care how basic it is or how advanced it is, I can always make it. I can with if I have a topic, I can make it, you know, where it fits beginner, intermediate, expert, and all the above, where everybody can learn something. I have a little knack for that. So, but yeah, throw out some ideas. laney.shaughnessy@spindletv.com. The email address is at the bottom of the screen right there. laney.shaughnessy@spindletv.com. And throw out some ideas. I would love to see them. And, you know, go from there, right? I'd love to see those class ideas and everything. So y'all have a wonderful night. I appreciate you all of my paid subscribers. Thank you for everything that you do. That money each week helps out all of my viewers. Your thumbs up helps with the algorithm, helps me out every month. I appreciate that. So thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everything, right? Y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next week. See you, everybody. See you, Kurt. Thanks for that, JR. everybody. Thanks, Kimberly. I appreciate that. Y'all have a good night. See you.